have the one and only Jason Tarter in the house now. This is actually a special elevator pitch showdown, Christine. Okay. So there's, most of the people, we have startups from around the world that pitch their ideas, and we have some amazing founders. But this is going to be a unique situation, Christine, because Jason and I actually grew up together. Okay. So I've known Jason, I guess, Jason, I'm just without aging us, at least 30 plus years, correct?
Correct.
Without going to 40 plus, I think we're 30 plus is good enough for now, right? And so as childhood friends, this is going to be really interesting because we played sports against each other, and we have all this stuff now. In our 40s, we are going to be doing elevator pitch showdown, right? So this is going to be a chance for you to pitch your idea from a global perspective, right? Because there's an element of what you've built, and I think everyone's going to be really curious about what you've created. And then what we'll do is we'll try to unpack it, right, a little bit. And for your entertainment, okay, we'll be able to see if I can pitch it back and see where it goes, okay? So are you ready?
No.
All right. I'm going to kick it off, and then you have 1 minute, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Singh. I was on early. My parents were early settlers in northern Ontario. We've made a lot of money in real estate, and we're looking at kind of the health tech space. And we heard about what you're working on, Jason. So tell us more.
Thank you so much, Ash. My company is Dispensary Tree, and we have developed and continue to develop the most sophisticated custom formula builder and inventory management system. Our first targeted segment is for herbal medicine practitioners, and they can quickly craft formulations for patients, have the patients pay, and drop ship it directly to their door. It tracks an unlimited number of ingredients used and monitors consumption and low stock. The software currently is in use. It powers larger dispensaries who provide dispensing service to other healthcare practitioners. And then we also have smaller clinics who need, custom formula management built into an e-commerce platform. And we're looking to raise, $200,000 or $300,000 to improve our sales and marketing tactics to bring on more users, and also improve the software to make it easier to onboard and to provide a couple integrations and features to make it even better.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jason, let's unpack that for a little bit now. Jason, obviously you and I have had a couple of conversations before, but we're kind of going through the elevator pitch experience kind of for the first time. Let's talk about two things, and it's always like where my mind was during the pitch. Okay. And again, I'm going to keep it completely unbiased because that's the best way to do it, right? So I remove those components. When I think about, you kind of have you've kind of gone through the herbal medicine space because you kind of, that's your background, right? That's kind of where it all started. And my question to you is like, you're enabling a situation where somebody in this space can have a very detailed custom formulation and be able to track their own inventory as they start to have all their elements, right? So they'll get all these ingredients together, and they'll be able to track it within the system. They'll also be able to buy those ingredients, and you have all these formulations in place. My question to you is, which other industries have you thought about? And more importantly, when we think about the journey around this process, where does this go, right? What is the big picture on it, right? Because obviously you can provide the formulation, and you can also provide the software for them to kind of manage their storefront. Is that correct, Jason? That's what you're doing, right? And
Yeah.
so my question to you, let's stick to herbal medicine for this conversation.
Okay.
Like, I want to know where else you can take it, right? So, but for the sake of the what you have right now, because you built it for herbal medicine, let's continue that in terms of where it's going. But where do you see the other use cases around this?
So like other industries that could utilize the technology?
Yes.
Okay, so one is the Western or allopathic compounding pharmacies would be a very good fit for this software, because they're combining different ingredients in varying amounts to make a custom medication for a patient. Also, custom vitamins and minerals for doesn't have to be patients, but regular customers. So when there are companies out there that are doing that now, but I think it's going to be a larger space in the future. Nutraceuticals. So that's like custom vitamins and minerals, but even companies that are manufacturing, their proprietary blends, who need a system to manage their inventory and stock and connect with suppliers. The hemp, cannabis, CBD, could be using my software to dispense those types of products, whether it's just 7 grams of cannabis, or they're putting a special CBD blend together where they're mixing different oils together at varying strengths. But it could be really used for other industries beyond the healthcare, because anyone that's putting a formula together in manufacturing could use the software.
Got it. Okay. I'm just writing a couple of notes. There's a lot to unpack here, because your big picture is actually a little bit bigger than I thought it was going to be, which is great. My question to you is, let's take a moment, Jason, and let's try to paint the picture of the future of your storefront. Like, if you think about your platform, the Dispensary Tree, B2B, right? Because it's a B2B, you're powering other pieces. You're like a B2B storefront for herbal medicine, Western medicine, vitamins, protein, nutraceuticals, cannabis, all this stuff. But in 3 to 5 years, how do you think an average person would interact with a storefront? What kind of information would they be giving you, right? And if we just come back to herbal medicine for now, what kind of information would they be giving you? What would your storefront look like, and how would it be intelligent?
So right now it's all practitioner based. So a patient would go see a practitioner, and they would do a health consultation outside of our software, and then they would submit the order to the dispensary, and then we drop ship it to the to the patient or wherever they want, basically. For herbal medicine, I don't think that's going to change much, unless we had some type of very specific case where we could gather information about a specific condition, and then it would spit out a formula that would be safe for that user using safe ingredients. If we were looking at customized vitamins and minerals, then we could collect data, whether it's a questionnaire, a blood test, information from their doctor, a DNA test, to figure out which vitamins and minerals that they are lacking. And it's not just vitamin and minerals, it could be, probiotics, because there's current tests right now that you can do where you basically send in a stool sample, a very small one, and they analyze it, and they tell you which bacteria you are low on, and then you can get a a custom script for a probiotic. So it
Got
really
it.
depends on what the product is and what the company is trying to sell to the end user. Does that answer your question?
It does. So when I think about what you okay, my last question. So I understand that because so that it answers the first question around inputs that are given, right? I totally understand that. My question for you is around the idea of what kind of information, because you're coming in, you're providing things like your DNA, your work, your schedule, like how busy you are, your mood, your allergy test, your blood test, your all these components. My question to you is, how does this become the most powerful personalized medicine platform in on the planet, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like in a couple of years, I'm just wondering, you input all this information, how do you add the intelligence layer? Because the idea around this, and I know that it's practitioner led at the moment, but how do you make it so that it's still practitioner led because that's your customer? But how do you make sure that, the level of accuracy is higher, right? So if you think about it for a second, there's probably let's talk about, okay, I got something, Jason.
I may not know the answer to that question yet. You know what I
I
mean?
know. That's okay, Jason. That's okay, right? I mean, you've known me for a very long time. And I recall you being smarter than me in high school, but and grade school, but I think I have something here. I'm going to ask you a question. I ask you a question. When we think about, let's talk about on a very basic level, when you are in the herbal medicine space, what is the accuracy rate at the moment? Okay, just average. And you can give me a range. You might not have the perfect answer, but like, you come with a problem. What is the accuracy rate in being able to solve it, right? I know it from Western medicine. You come in with an allergy, it's probably 9 out of 10 because you can take this allergy medicine and it's just kind of done. Tell me about the herbal medicine accuracy rate.
I mean, everyone's in private practice, so I don't know if all of that data is shared. I can only give you my personal experience because I treated patients for many years.
Sure.
First of all, formulas change as the condition changes. So the first formula you give a patient won't be the last formula you give a patient. It's going to change throughout the cycle. I would say my success rate was around 75%, which means, let's say it was 7 out of 10. So like 3 people would leave my office and I wouldn't get results, and 7 would get results. I don't know if I have the data to confirm what it is across the industry. I use the software to run my own dispensary, so I'm sure I could dig up data to see what the repurchase is, how many formulas a patient is going to receive on average before they kind of drop off, right? So the longer they're taking a formula, the most likely like it's working for them because they're paying money for it.
Okay. Because 7 out of 10 is actually a pretty good number. Jason, from a herbal medicine.
I mean, for any medicine, like 70% efficacy is very high. I think most practitioners in herbal medicine, they get pretty high. Our biggest problem is people not wanting to take the herbs because they don't taste good.
Okay, that's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation.
But let me ask you another question. Like, if you have an effectiveness of 60 to 70%, do you think that with a lot more data available to somebody, right? Like, for instance, as part of the Hyper Accelerator program, we've been using AI for the last couple of years. And, I spend a lot of time and I love the idea of value proposition design, but sometimes like I miss something, right? There's human error. And what I do now is I leverage AI to be able to generate like tens, sometimes hundreds of value propositions for a company, right? And then I look at it and I'm like, okay, I like this. This is going to be, you know what I mean? It just, I know it's going to work versus like, you know what I
It's
mean?
like a brainstorming session. You get
Yeah,
all
exactly.
the ideas there, and you can
Exactly.
pick and
Exactly.
choose.
Yes, yes. Now for these elevator pitch sessions, I don't, because people like the idea of me almost embarrassing myself with no preparation, right? But for everything else, I like to be able to get data. And so when I look at this, the first thing that I see happening is that the B2B storefront of the future, okay, for healthcare providers, let's kind of generally call them healthcare providers. Traditional and Western medicine, they're all kind of in the healthcare space. You know, I think about the idea of being able to derive and get the right information, and then also help the person generate formulations based on what everyone else has been doing. But also, I do believe there will come a time when a machine will be able to start to look at patterns, right? There's a pattern element to things. Is that correct? You know what I mean? And pattern needs to be, we think about DNA and all these other components, the idea of doing that right and getting the pattern recognition in place to help the person move their effectiveness from 60 to 70% to maybe as much as 90%. But the other thing around it, right, is not just giving, and you're an expert in this, but when you provide a formula, usually people come to you because they have a problem. Right? I have a migraine, and you've come and you give them something and you solve it, but you also want to make sure that they move into a commercial relationship with you to maintain that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the idea of, your lifetime value in creating all these components, and then being in a situation where the system itself is monitoring what's happening. Jason, does that make sense? Like when I think about it, it's like scaling somebody's practice. When you do this, instead of just having, 100 to 500 patients, right? You can move to having 100,000 patients, right? Effectively, if that's what happens. Because what needs to happen is the only time we use Jason's brain is when it's like the hard stuff. It's not the standard stuff. And the recommendations are provided, and even the reoccurring components. Hey, how's it going? Tell us about how things have moved. Has your mood changed? And you get those components going so that the brain around what's happening is a lot more robust and is running on its own, and you only focus on the higher cases, the hard stuff. And whilst your practice is running, do you know what I mean? And your practice is driving lifetime value, because at the end of the day, your business should be about two levers. The two metrics is like effectiveness in the prescription, right? And driving an increase in lifetime value of a customer, right? And starting in the herbal medicine space, and you've done that because you know it. But if you do that well, Western medicine and cannabis and nutraceuticals should be easy. Right, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's kind of where I see this all coming together. That's kind of where I see the bigger picture on this, right? I think that, does that make sense, Jason? I know I've talked a lot. What are your thoughts on that?
Like, it makes sense. I would have to see it in real world. You're basically saying that you want a patient to come and remove the practitioner from the equation and ask them, collect whatever data is necessary. And based on that data, you will generate them a custom formulation, which would be sent to them. And then have a mechanism for monitoring how they're doing by taking that formulation.
Yeah, what I'm saying is we don't remove the practitioner altogether. What I'm saying is we remove them from the non-value based tasks, right? That's what I'm saying, right? That's the way right? So again, it comes down to this. It's just about the scale mode. I'm saying you manage the lifetime value and the effectiveness and all these components, because you want to aim to have, instead of 100 to 500 customers, you want to aim to have 10,000 to 100,000 customers. And you want to be able to drive those elements and make sure the lifetime value is there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Jason, would you like me to pitch this idea to you?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna get this going. Dispensary. What about the name, Jason? Tell me about that. Tell me about that. Now that
It's a problem.
Huh? You know,
It's a problem.
and I've seen it before, and I want to, I'm just wondering that. Okay. We have to think about that, right? Because we can't pigeonhole the overall big picture around what you're doing, right? To just kind of, it seems like it might get stuck in one industry, just based on kind of the words that are being used. So we should think about that as well, but I won't change the name of the company right now. Okay. All right, let's do this, Jason. You get to be a big time investor, and I get to be the CEO of Dispensary Tree for the next 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jason Tarter. I'm looking to invest in companies in the health space. I hear you have something you've been working on. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Absolutely. Jason, my name is Ash Singh, and I'm part of the Dispensary Tree team. I have spent the last 10 years in the herbal medicine space. And I love the industry, but I've realized that, like many other industries in the healthcare space, it's quite broken. And so over the last 3 years, I decided to reimagine what I think the future of herbal medicine would look like. And I have invested the time to create the starting points of what it would look like. And when I think about this, it would be an experience where with people that have challenges, we create a personalized solution where they would upload their DNA, provide their allergy report and their blood tests and all the other components, and we would allow practitioners to be able to take some of that personal information along with our pattern-based machine learning recommendation to generate formulas that would help herbal medicine providers become 20 to 30% more effective in their recommendations. We would also allow them to actively monitor their solutions to make sure that the person is finding value and extend their lifetime value by as much as 2 to 3 times. And through this process, by providing this smart engine, it allows them to truly just focus on high value challenges and also allows them to scale. And I see a mode where instead of me having 500 patients, I can have 10,000 to 100,000 patients. I want to talk to you more about how I see this work and the effort that we've put in to make sure that we've built the right system to absorb the data and make these recommendations from a formulation perspective and an inventory management perspective, and how this will impact not just herbal medicine, but Western medicine, nutraceuticals, and maybe even cannabis. I'm looking for $200,000 to $300,000 to make that reality happen, and I'd love to chat to you to find out more. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. How was that, Jason?
That was different, but that was good.
The big picture for me and where you're going to take this, and I know I brought in a little bit of the kind of the recommendation engine, even to kick off some of the pattern elements is actually not that difficult. You don't need to have like a sophisticated, component, but I believe that, this idea of coming back to the practitioner, right? The idea of improving their accuracy, right? And helping them speed up the process. So it's like improve it, get them to recommend faster, and then also that real-time monitoring to help drive what's happening, I think is kind of that critical path, right? And it needs to be built. And I kicked off and I went a little bit long in terms of the personalized medicine. But when I think about this, it's like, it's the Shopify for personalized medicine. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's where you're going with this. I want to remove 100%. Dispensary word. I want to remove just the herbal medicine component. The way I look at it, again, from an unbiased perspective, Jason, is that you've chosen herbal medicine not just because you know it, but it's because if you get that right, everything else is probably going to be easy. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's very, very complicated, the formulation. So I can do easy formulations and very complex formulations.
Yes. But do you get what I'm saying? All the other things are just going to kind of fall in. It's going to be bang, 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 bang. And so I wanted that to kind of come out in why you're doing it, right? It's not just because you know the space, but all of these elements will come together. And I feel like there needs to be, and I think you mentioned this, right? No e-commerce, no Magento, no Shopify. Nothing is built like this, correct, Jason? No one's built for that. And so I think that just making sure you map that out and then go from there is something that's going to be really, really powerful. And that's kind of the place that we go, right? I feel like you might need more capital, Jason, but that's a different conversation. And we'll talk a little bit about that.
Probably. For the big picture, I definitely need more capital.
Yeah, and I feel like what's exciting for me is that in 2023, although the markets are down, what you're doing, you already have traction. You've already seen people use it, right? And I do believe there needs to be a little bit of just emphasis on that intelligence layer because they want to know that you're building that IP. And you know what? There might actually be people that own dispensaries and it's run on autopilot completely, Jason. So the guy still owns it, but he doesn't actually have to do anything because your recommendation engine is just that good, right? You know what I mean? But that's kind of where
the dispensaries typically will have to put the formula together, and that's kind of their role in the whole matrix. I mean, there are machines that can put formulas together. There's just the dispensaries on my platform aren't big enough to afford such equipment.
I mean, the automation of formulation creation is the automation of formulation creation. Wow, those are like, that all kind of rhymes. Wow. Anyways, it's I think that's kind of a little bit later on because, but absolutely, that's part of your big picture, right? And so for me, I want to leave walking away. I'm like, shit, how come, and this is maybe a question you can add to your pitch, right? Is how come no one has created this whole formulation component from an e-commerce perspective today, right?
Yeah, there are a couple other companies that build formulations, but their software is just so outdated and clunky.
But what I'm saying is, why has it been so unsophisticated to date, right? And part of your journey, like everything, is if software is taking over the world, it's like, the digitally focused herbalist is going to win, right? And this is how they win. And we're going to be providing the tools to make it happen. And then we're going to do it for all these other people. And we're going to manage their practice end to end and, and Bob Zero, right? That's kind of the process and that's how it works, right? But that's kind of the way I would position it, right? The accuracy rate, your lifetime value, making their life easy, the pains, the needs, the gains. And just getting enough of the capital components to start to win, like a growth capital play. Like for me, I would have liked to hear, we've started off, we've gotten some traction with 10, 20, whatever number of, and what I need to now do is I need to raise the 200, 300 to double that, to triple that. Okay. And then come back again. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I want to know
Yeah.
the momentum, and I felt that was also, I wanted that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I want to see momentum because in 2023, if we're raising money, it's all about momentum. Do you know what I mean? Gone are the days where, you know, you have like some crypto web 3.0 blockchain idea and people are just going to give you money to, you know, I think, and I think you have momentum, Jason, and I think that that needs to kind of come out too, right? Getting on it when you're first money. You know what I mean? You know?
In the
And
60 seconds you're talking about in the elevator?
yeah. Okay,
Okay.
it could be 75, Jason. It's okay. I know we Canadians speak really slow, okay? So I do realize that if I was from New York, it could be 60 seconds, but you get what I'm saying? It's that momentum piece, right? And I want to walk away from your pitch being like, why has no one done that? And this guy seems to have the most momentum. Let me help him and see where this goes, right? And have you raised capital before, Jason?
No.
You self-financed this, right? It was really
I was
interesting.
for the Futurepreneur program through
Yeah.
the BDC Bank, and I got about $15,000 initially. And then I had customers come on, I charged them setup fees and stuff. I used that money. And then I sold a lot of herbs and treated a lot of patients and put the money into programming.
It was really interesting. I'm here in Singapore, and a very well-known personality came to meet me today, and he asked me what I was doing. So I started telling him what I was doing, and in the middle of the thing, I'm like, you know, let me ask him for money. Let's see what happens, you know. And I do this just for fun sometimes, Jason, just to kind of set it up and see the emotional connection, because I spend all this time helping other people like yourself ask money. So I turned to him and I said, what do you think? And he's like, very good. And I turned to him and I looked at him and I said, you know, at the right time, I'm going to follow up with you, and I'd love for you to be the first money on this deal, right? First money, right? And he was like, yeah, I would. Do you know what I mean? Like I could sense, and like sometimes you can go that far, right? Sometimes you can say, I'd love to talk to you more. And sometimes when you're really in the moment with the person, it's like, listen, I'd like you to be first money on this deal, right? And when I think about this, you know, getting a couple of $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 checks from a couple of people in the medical space doesn't seem that hard, Jason. Does that make sense? You know, you know, like I'm just thinking about the faster ways for access to capital, right? And we'll take that conversation offline as part of the Hyper Accelerator, but that's kind of what I see, right? You know, and just go for the jump.
Yeah, like I have good programmers. They give me good deals. They work efficiently, and I could do a lot with a couple hundred. I could do a lot with a couple 100,000.
Yeah. So let's work on that. Yeah. But Jason, was this helpful in this conversation?
Very helpful, yes. And I have to explore your perspective on the big picture of the company further.
Yeah, because it aligns with your fundraising, short term and long term. Does that make sense? You know, and the $200,000 to $300,000 might just be the first tranche of a bigger picture, which is totally
okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yes.
All right, excellent. So Jason, always a pleasure. I'm going to be back in Toronto in January 2nd, and we'll make some time to break bread and catch up, right? But thank you again. Look forward to you know, the next phase and the new year.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday, sir.
You too. Take care.